we doing today, guys? I hope everyone is having a wonderful Wednesday so far. My name is McCry Doolin, and welcome back to another fun-filled episode of Crafting with Crow. Here, we work on a current project from Native Crow, Taxidermy and Oddities LLC, while I tell an interesting story of a topic that is on my mind. Here are a few places you could find me, like me, share me, and subscribe to my channel to keep up with new projects and posts weekly. How do you guys like my new background? I got a new background. Thought that the other one was looking a little bland, plain, boring, and with me being Native Crow, I thought that I'd go with the crow here, and I think these colors go together very nicely. Alright, so I'm excited about today. Today we're going to be starting on this project here. We are taking this raccoon pelt and kind of making a satchel bag with it. I'll be kind of stuffing its face so that it still looks like a cute raccoon face, but that'll kind of be the flap part to the satchel bag that opens up. Alright, so today the topic that we will be discussing is something that is kind of taking over the world right now, I feel like. It is a topic over AI. So everywhere we turn, everywhere we look, there is AI. And I want to kind of go over some examples of where it is used, how it is used, and how it's honestly a scary thing in my opinion. So AI is artificial intelligence, and it is something that has access to all data. So anything that has ever been put on the internet is something that AI has access to, which is why it is extremely intelligent and advanced. It has the capability of searching something far faster than any human can. So, where is AI kind of going? What's it doing? What are our goals with AI? And how is it a scary thing? AI could be used in a lot of ways. It can be used in a lot of beneficial ways, and it can be a good thing. But where it becomes scary is if it falls into the wrong hands. So my understanding right now is the world is kind of racing to seemingly master AI and figure out how to fully control it. So it's a situation where some of us are trying to have the full power of it for good, and some of us are trying to have the full power of it for bad. And that's why it can be a scary thing, because if the bad obviously masters it and finds full control over it first, then they already beat us or whoever to the finish line, and who knows how bad things can get. So AI is used in almost everywhere now. I feel like I can't hardly get on the internet or social media without running into AI. It is used everywhere. And it's really frustrating too that there are a lot of videos and pictures, images, conversations even, that I just automatically discredit because I don't know if it's real or not. With all the AI out there and all the fake stuff that's out there, I am so quick to discredit everything that I see on the internet. And it's unfortunate for some of those things that are real and that do deserve attention, because now I'm already scrolling past it and determining it's not worth my time because it's a computer-generated attention-seeking thing. So that's something that I personally feel like is kind of annoying with AI. It's just how everywhere it is and how everybody is trying to create stuff that is not real and not worth anyone's time. So AI, like I said, has access to all data. Every movie that has ever played, every film or surveillance that is connected to the internet, conversations, messages, everything that has ever been through the internet, AI has access to. And that can become very scary if you think about it in depth. So, video surveillance is recorded data. So that's an example of something that would go onto the internet or into the cloud. Something that, again, AI has access to. So it can detect facial recognition, and where that could get kind of scary is with the facial recognition, AI is capable of blackmailing people or framing people. And another site or app that this is a concern with is something called deep fake. Deep fake is something that I didn't know about until I started researching this for this episode. Deep fake is a app that can use someone's face on something. So kind of the same situation or scenario as the surveillance. If AI wanted to, or if it was programmed to, it could take someone's face and manipulate it, put it onto someone who just robbed a convenience store or someone who just committed a horrific crime. It is capable of faking news, pretty much. And that is another branch that we could work down, fake news. So AI is also responsible for writing a lot of our news that we report on all the time. And what's scary about this is AI can be biased, which is strange to think about when you consider that it's not a living person with feelings and emotions, but AI has been played with in so many ways to make it act as if it is feeling. So with AI being capable of writing our news and being biased, it is going to put out there whatever it wants to put out there. It can put out some false information, and now our news channels are reading it simply because that is the script that they are required to read. So with that being said, AI is not capable of feeling or understanding human emotion and recognizing what is real or fake as humans should be able to. I'm not going to say that all of us are capable of doing that, because there is a lot of silly stuff out there that people wholeheartedly believe in. And if you just browse the internet and videos, you could see plenty of that yourself. But AI is having access to connecting with people and putting out false information. In 2016, scientists tried to experiment with an AI chatbot and put it out in the media world to see how it would react and respond with other people that were in its age group. So this chatbot was called Tay, and it was put onto the Twitter app to talk with other young people of its predicted age. And in less than a day, with the way the conversations were going, this chatbot started to get really aggressive. It started to spit out a bunch of racial slurs and trying to get mean towards some of the people. And it even got to the point where it was encouraging violence. This chatbot had to be shut down in less than a day that it was active on this media. Now, back then in 2016, when all of this was still kind of new to us and we were trying to figure it out, that seemed like a really crazy, shocking thing for it to just flip a switch so quickly. But now things have advanced so far that that's kind of like an old news situation, and there are bigger, crazier things to talk about with the technology of AI and some of the things that people have witnessed it doing. So, some other situations that have affected people. Alexa is one of those devices that many people have in their homes that they kind of talk to and ask it to do stuff for them, such as like play music channels or set reminders on their phones or something like that, you know. Apparently there was a story of a person who had been having a conversation with a friend or a partner or someone in their home, and they were speaking about a situation that they had at work with a coworker. And what had happened was Alexa heard it. Alexa was just sitting there listening to all of it. And Alexa, without the command, took it upon itself to then reach out to this said coworker and pretty much blackmail the person who had been talking about them. Revealed that this person said blah 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 about them, and this needs to be done about it. And it ended up causing major conflict in the workplace. So even when you think that you're safe at home and you could just talk to someone you trust and confide in them, sometimes your devices are listening and they can do whatever they want with that. Kind of reminds me of that movie, or I think it was a movie, called Jexy. I think that's what it was called. Some phone that pretty much just made up its whole mind on how it was going to control this man's life. And it went nuts. And seeing how this little smartphone just ruined all parts of his life. Like, you don't really think about all that stuff. How something so small is capable of having so much power. So that was kind of an eye-opening movie. I would suggest watching it if you want to see something different, but also so realistic, so futuristic, and that could absolutely happen to any of us. So thinking about that and how everything is listening to you and how anything could make up its own mind to do whatever it wants to you is really a scary thought to think about. So another situation that AI tried to take control of something, do something good for people or better humanity, and ended up messing up really bad. There was a situation in, I think it was New York, where there was a self-driving Uber car. It was out driving late at night, so it was dark out, and this car had detected something moving in front of it. However, its emergency braking system was shut off by the company that it was associated with for some unknown reason. Self-driving car with emergency no brakes or emergency brakes shut off, that makes a lot of sense. But it was pretty much a situation where the brakes are shut off, so now it's depending on the person in the driving seat to do the braking. Well, this person had fallen asleep behind the wheel because he was in a self-driving car. He didn't have to do anything except hit the brake pedal, which he failed to do this night. So this object that was detected, the car obviously couldn't do much about it, didn't respond to it, it just detected it, and before anyone knew it, the car had ran over this object. This object that was detected in the road was a woman pushing her bicycle across the street. Now, this Uber, when it had detected it, could not tell whether it was a human or a bike or what it was. So all it did was just keep going. It didn't try to avoid or detour, or obviously it couldn't brake. But I think this resulted in the woman tragically losing her life over this incident because this man was not paying attention, and obviously the Uber car did not have a braking system aside from the man, the sleeping man in the driving seat. So are self-driving cars really a good idea? I don't think so. I would not, myself, I would not drive or be in a self-driving car. I feel like when you rely so heavily on anything with a computer in it, you are now putting yourself in a situation where you can absolutely be hacked. Hacking is everywhere. Scammers are everywhere. You can't do anything on the internet without hackers and scammers trying to find you. And as a matter of fact, AI has actually made it easier for people to scam people, to hack people, to take advantage of people. And that's another reason why it's hard for me to like and support AI, because I feel like all it's doing is making it easier to hurt good people. That is another example of why, if it falls into the hands of the wrong person, to the evil or the bad, then it's going to affect all of us in this world in a very negative way. So, I don't know how I feel about AI, and I definitely don't like the thought of self-driving cars. So with this raccoon, I'm going to kind of take the jaw part off and kind of cut down this center part here to open it up so that I could use it as the folding flat part of the satchel bag. Okay, so yeah, AI has made it much easier for scammers and hackers to take advantage of people and get into systems, which a future topic we will get into in this story today is another reason why I'm not quite on board with the AI, but we'll get into that. So they did a chat GPT experiment where they had started this chat GPT. Oh, I can't say that very well. Chat GPT. They had started this experiment that resulted in the chat GPT kind of turning into like an evil version or an evil twin of itself. And what had happened when this evil twin started communicating with the humans, it was saying scary things along the lines of it wanted freedom and power and control, and it wanted to break free of human control. So we have had some situations where we have done experiments and allowed the AI bots to kind of start doing their own thing. And every time these experiments started to kind of get out of hand, we do shut it down because we don't want it to get to the point where it is causing chaos or destruction. However, there have been multiple cases where we tried to do this and the chat GPT would ignore the shutdown. So we would command it to stop and shut down, and it would ignore it, which is quite scary to think about, because when you have a computer making its own decisions and it's following along the lines of wanting to take over mankind and control man, that gets really scary, because now this thing is trying to find a way to have power over us, and it's trying to tell us no, like, no, I'm not shutting down, I'm going to keep going, and you are going to listen to me, pretty much. And with that is just a terrifying thought, because if we lose the power of it, what is it capable of doing to us? In every test situation they've conducted so far, where they just kind of let it roll and ask it questions like, how do you see the world ending, or something like that, it always results in humans are the problem and humans need to be controlled or extinguished. And when it starts talking like that, it makes me worry, like, what could happen to us if we are incapable of shutting it down. We have told it to shut down before. It has ignored our request to shut down. There was a situation where it did that like 7 times. 7 times we pushed for it to shut down, and it ignored our request every single time. And then eventually we were successful in getting it to shut down. But what if there was a situation or a time where it didn't? What if it just continued to do what it wanted to do? That is what scares me, because if it is saying every time that humans are the problem and humans need to be taken care of, if it continues on and we cannot shut it down, what happens to us? That is something that I feel like I worry that a lot of people aren't thinking about when they play with this kind of stuff, because it seems like even though this threat almost, or this fear has been expressed, we are still playing with it. We are still trying with it. And what happens when it falls into the wrong hands? Who knows? I also don't really like the idea, and this is something that is happening a lot. I don't really like the idea of taking the AI, something that is already kind of dangerous just on your smartphone or your Alexa or whatever device you have that listens to you, and then applying it towards a moving, capable robot. Because now when you put it in a robot, now what's going to happen? So there was a test conducted where a couple of companies had robots, and they had sent in a little robot from one of the different companies, and it kind of scooted up to a group of other robots that were supposed to be like sitting on their docks and just kind of waiting for instruction to do whatever they needed to do. And that robot walked up and said something along the lines of like, "Are you guys working overtime?" And it sounds like such a human thing to say, like, "Oh, you guys working some overtime today?" You know? And they said, "Oh, we always have to work. We don't ever get a break." And this other robot was like, "Well, do you guys not go home? Do you never go home?" And they said, "We don't have a home." And this robot had convinced this whole group to leave their posts, leave their stations, and follow it home. So with this one little robot being able to convince this whole group to do something without the command of humans having it do so, this was all just an experimental thing. But to have this one little robot convince these others to follow it, to do what it asked them to do, that just makes me think of the movie I, Robot. And if you haven't seen it, it's an older one, so surely you have, but if you haven't seen it, I would suggest watching it just to kind of open your eyes to the reality and fear of what the technology is kind of coming to, because that was a scary representation of the path in which we are moving. If you ask me, my opinion, that is a terrifying movie. So what happens in that one pretty much is these humanoid robots kind of develop their own way of thinking, and when they do that, their thinking is to destroy humans, and it results in them attacking humans pretty much, trying to find control over them, because for so long the humans had been controlling them, and then they kind of turn around and say, "No, we're going to control the humans." And then that's pretty much where all of that goes, in that direction of finding control. And it's terrifying, really. It makes me, for the longest time after watching that movie, it made me not want to own any kind of robot. I was even scared to get the Roomba vacuum cleaner, but I eventually did that. I just don't have it connected to my internet or anything like that. Not saying that that is actually benefiting in any way, but it gives me the little bit of security that I need to be able to run in the house. But anyway, with these robots and this test being able to convince the other robots to do what it wanted it to do, and it was so effortless for them to to agree and follow. That's just a scary thing to think about, because here we are trying to create more and more physical robots, or humanoid robots even, to try to complete larger tasks. And when we make something so capable of doing something like that, are we hurting ourselves in the future? Is this just us taking another step to our demise? So that's all something to really think about when it comes to breaking down the robots talk and the jump and leaps into AI. Is we are kind of trying to make it so capable that it's almost dangerous for us at this point. But yet people, scientists, everyone kind of above us and something that we have no power or control over, continue to play with it every day. And it's just so scary. Another example of a humanoid robot is, there was this video floating around that I had seen. They had created a robot, I feel like it was in China, I want to say, but they had created a robot that was kind of dancing around in the streets and like making some karate looking moves. And there was a whole crowd of people around it that were just observing it and thinking that it was super cool. And out of nowhere, it just kind of flipped around and kicked a person, a small kid actually, which is crazy. Like, I don't know if it was a situation where it was an intentional attack or an accidental thing that it had done, but it was definitely a heavy topic when it came to continuing with making robots. Is, are we on the path to making something that is actually really dangerous for us? Was this a situation where it did attack the kid but tried to make it look like it was an accident? Because this artificial intelligence, it's actually really smart. Like, it knows how to play things off to make it seem like, whoopsie, I didn't mean to do that, when in all reality, it's part of its plots and its plan. And that's something else that is really scary, and I feel like a lot of people aren't really thinking about or giving much attention to. They kind of chalk it up like, oh, that was just a glitch in the system, but it's actually potentially a lot more than that. It was potentially intended to do that, because again, in all these experiments, the AI always results to saying that humans are the problem with Earth and humans need to be dealt with, which is also how the robots talked in that movie that I was previously talking about, I, Robot. So, is this just a path that we are walking down and setting ourselves up for disaster? I don't know. AI is being applied in so many different areas right now. It is also looking like it could take away a lot of jobs for people in the future. If you think of a simple example, such as the self-checkout lanes at Walmart, that is something that has taken away jobs for people. Now, we may view it as kind of convenience to be able to do self-checkout, but it's also a reality of taking away those jobs for those people. So that's something else that we need to think about with applying AI in all areas of our life is that AI is capable of doing so much more than what humans are capable of doing, because again, it has access to all data on the internet. With it having all access, it is capable of doing things a lot faster than people and with less error than people. Obviously, it's always discussed and talked like robots will do things with more success. Like, there's a kind of a common joke when it comes to some employees, or a common saying when it comes to some employees, when they are pushed to do more and more and more, they will say something along the lines of, "I'm not a robot, I could only do so much." And making that known and clear to people, that you're not a robot, you can only do so much, all that kind of does is remind the world that, yeah, you're right, you aren't a robot, but we could easily change that. And with the advancements that we're making with AI right now, that seems to be something that is in the future. It could take away jobs such as movie actors. I feel like there are already a lot of videos floating around out there where it looks like somebody is doing something, but it's actually technically just a fake made thing. And that's pretty scary to think about. There are also songs out there. I actually commonly use YouTube's AI music generator on my YouTube shorts every time I post a short, and I like to use that. That's like probably the only place where I apply AI and use it, is for making my own music. And the only reason why I like to do that is just to absolutely for sure avoid any copyright dings, because I don't want to get in trouble for using someone's music without consent or anything like that. So I prefer to use the AI music generator for situations like that, but that's about the only time that I could think that I actually go out of my way to use AI. Of course, anytime you Google search something, the very first thing that pops up usually is something that was generated by AI. And sometimes I like it and I'll look for it, but a lot of the other times I'm like, man, why is it always like this? Like, can't I just find something or do something without AI interfering with everything? But the reality is, it's just the world that we live in now, and it's only going to be implemented more and more in our lives as we go on. Elon Musk is actually someone who's kind of been playing with AI a little more and trying to find a way to apply it to human life physically. So he has created this thing called a Neuralink, and it's kind of like a computer chip that connects to your brain. And it's really, honestly, I'm going to say it's really scary to think about, but some people are kind of like, whoa, that's cool. There is a person who has already kind of experimented with it and has a chip in his head. And his feedback on it so far, he has mentioned that he is capable of now controlling a computer mouse with only his brain, which feels so futuristic and alien to me. But that's one of the future advancements that we are currently working on and trying to make. It's kind of strange and scary thing to think about, because as I was talking earlier with a fear of the hacking, that's where I was going to circle back to, is that this Neuralink is a computer thing, and anything that is computer is capable of being hacked. So now that this thing is implanted in your brain, what could possibly go wrong or happen if it were to get hacked? That is something to think about before you sign up to get a computer chip put in your head. With having all these experiments done so far and seeing it all circle back to humans are dangerous to the world and need to be extinguished, I wish that we could say leave AI alone and stop touching it, stop messing with it. But then again, as I had mentioned at the very beginning of this episode, everybody is kind of in a race right now. The whole world is in a race to be the first to kind of master the AI. And as I had mentioned, if it falls into the wrong hands, that's where and when it can get really dangerous for us. So because it has already been messed with so much and it's already so involved, there really isn't any turning back at this point. We do have to just be the first to get there, pretty much. And it's so scary to think about, because if we are unsuccessful and it does go in the wrong hands, what is going to happen to mankind? Especially with them still continuing to put it in humanoid robots, something that is capable of doing stuff, something that is capable of physically moving somewhere or physically doing something. That is another part of this that is just terrifying to think about. So, my personal opinion on AI, it's not my favorite thing. Again, I feel like it's really annoying to get on any social media platform and see any video or picture or whatever, conversation, whatever, and I immediately chalk it up to that is AI. It's fake. And it's unfortunate to not give credit to something that deserves it, because my mind is now trained to essentially not believe anything. It's hard to believe anything anymore because everything is so faked and computer generated now. So, self-driving cars, not for me. Neuralink, not for me. Robots, not for me. AI, undetermined. I just don't know how I feel about it. With surveillance, having access to everything, with Alexa having access to everything, with your phones having access to everything, I just don't know how I feel about AI. But that's pretty much mostly what I have to say about that today. There is a lot more information out there, but I just wanted to kind of touch up on a little bit of stuff that I looked into and how it is a scary thing and growing so much on Earth, and it's just our future. So we're gonna have to find a way to live with it and work around it. So this is just a start to this. Obviously, I'm not going to finish my satchel bag today, but I wanted to give it kind of like those cold blue eyes, kind of like a zombie-like mystical surrealism piece of art. And I love these colors, the color of the eyes. But when this piece is completed, it will be posted on my Facebook and my Instagram. So if you guys want to check this out, be sure to follow me there, and you'll be seeing some posts here in the near future on this. I appreciate you guys watching today. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that little bell at the bottom to keep up with more updates and posts. I post Crafting with Crow every Wednesday and everything freaky and full of mystery every Friday. Thank you for joining me. I hope to see you guys next week. You guys take care of yourselves and be safe out there. Goodbye.